But if I'm showing up to someone else's event, then all of the same thoughts go through my mind that goes through everybody else's of like, are people going to like me? Who am I going to talk to? Am I going to know anybody?
Yep.
The best way that I found to combat social anxiety.
Welcome to the Created to Win podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining. My name is Brian, the host, and I want to introduce some of my friends here. So why don't you guys, we'll go around, right, and just share what's your name, where are you from, and what is a awkward social interaction that you've experienced in the past?
Sure. My name is Ben Rastelli. I was born in North Fort Myers, Florida, but actually moved up here to Middle Tennessee when I was about 3. And so I've been here for pretty much my whole life. Went to school up here. Awkward social interactions. Depending on how today goes, this could be it.
Yeah.
Not used to being on this side of a camera, so we'll see. But I don't know, growing up, and actually kind of a basis for my desire for building a lot of community, I was I thought, introverted and kind of shy and on the quieter. You know, I'd be the one who could show up and just kind of be tucked away in the corner and be kind of awkward and feel out of place. So as I've gotten older, I've realized I'm actually more extroverted than I thought. And now I have an eye for those who are the awkward ones, who can show up to social functions and be kind of tucked away in corners. And I find myself able to kind of, and wanting to take the initiative to go talk to them, or, you know, have a friend, you know, chat with them and kind of help them get pulled in. And that's really what I've made sure to pull into the culture of what I do with Nashville Connect, of making a very friendly, open, inviting space for people. So, yeah.
So cool.
I'm Leslie. I born and raised in Washington State. Moved out here about just over 4 years ago. Felt the Lord calling us to some change. Nashville ended up being where we were called to. And so we moved out here and have been trying to pursue what the Lord has for us here. And awkward social interaction at church.
Okay.
Trying to make the graceful exit and they're like, oh, I'm gotta go this way, walk to a shop. And the person I was talking to was like, oh, I'll come with you. I'm like, okay. And ended up, the store was still closed when we got there. So proceeded to have a 45-minute conversation and it didn't open still. And yeah, so that was pretty awkward because I was expecting just to have my own time and just be by myself. But I mean, it was a good conversation, just a little bit more awkward than I was expecting.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Definitely not what I was hoping for, but that's okay.
Yeah. And this next guest happens to be your twin.
Yes.
Yeah, we look very similar.
Yeah.
I guess similar story to her.
Shocking.
Born and raised in Seattle. Moved to Nashville almost 4 years ago now. My name's Haylie. I don't think I said that. Awkward situation. I think, this was a few years ago now. I was at an event, talking with someone, had recently met them. Someone came up and they started interacting when they left, or when the person who had walked up left. The person I had kind of been interacting with left right away too. And so kind of like just cut this, and I was like, oh, I don't know what just happened. And I mean, it ended up kind of being cool because I threw a little bit of a pity party afterwards, but then that pity party like kind of kicked my butt into gear, and it really kind of led into like a year of change and growth for me. So
That's
what
awesome.
was an awkward situation actually kind of was a blessing in disguise for me.
Wow. Okay.
Great.
I love that.
I'm Caleb McMillen. I was born and raised in Nashville. Me and 3 others founded the city of Nashville. I was born in the top of the Batman building. They gave me a birth certificate and a guitar. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I was born and raised in Nashville. And let's see. An awkward social interaction that I had one time is a pretty funny story. So I'm a big advocate of like, if you see someone that like they look like they're trying to integrate into the group, don't do the thing where you like shoulder them out of the circle and stuff like that. So one day I was standing around with like a group, it's kind of like a little half circle of people, And I watched someone walk up to the group, and they were working from the other end and like trying to like interrupt and introduce themselves to each person as they got along. And I thought, I'm going to be a really awesome person, and I'm going to reach out first and make sure that I introduce myself. And so as this person was about to get to me, in a very welcoming manner, I was like, "Hey, I'm Caleb McMillen." And she goes, "We've met several times." And I responded, "Oh, that's rude. No wonder I forgot you." And then, but it turned out okay, because like it turned into this playful banter. She was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm from New York. I'm just like a little bit more." And I was like, "Well, I'm just popular, and that's how that goes." But we became friends, and
That's hilarious.
actually, it was funny because this person reached out maybe 6 or 9 months later and had asked for some help on a business that they were starting, and then followed back up and said, "Hey, I just landed this really awesome client that replaced my entire income from the job that I was leaving." And so
Wow.
turned out to be a great friendship. Just a really funny story.
Yeah, that is hilarious. Probably one of my awkward interactions was when I was on a sales call. I'm in sales, and I was talking to a lady on a Zoom call, and she was a mom, like a brand new mom, and I could hear her like baby making like cooing noises in the background. And I was very innocent in saying this, but it came off kind of weird. I was like, "Oh, I love the sound of children." And then people around me were like, "Now that's like the joke at work, is like, I love the sound of children."
You're
So,
that guy now.
yeah. So I tend to sometimes say stuff that comes off like wrong, but like I honestly meant it in an innocent way. But anyways, I love it. So you guys are all incredible community builders. I would love just to hear like, what kind of communities do you guys organize, and what's the heartbeat behind that? I want to learn.
Sure, I'll kick it off. I lead the Nashville Connect community. It's primarily 20s and 30s focused right now, but setting some vision and ideas, maybe expand to more age ranges and kind of do different events. A little backstory on it. It started as a Zeal Church small group, which is where I still go, over in West Nashville, the Nations area. And having been there for 7 or 8 months, I still only knew a handful of people and was just kind of tired of that. And I would talk to others, and they couldn't really find good friends in community either. So I decided to start a small group there, just to invite people at Zeal and other churches all around town to get together just to play sports, soccer, volleyball, ultimate frisbee, pickleball, just anything and everything, since that's kind of really what I'm passionate about. And I did that, and our very first meeting, we had 3 people show up, and I was really disappointed. But I kept with it, and basically every Friday night for the past 2 years, minus a few months that we took off, we've gotten together. And it was slow going at first, and then it grew. We had 10 and 20 and 40. And last summer we had around like 160 people, 20s and 30s out at Centennial Park, just hanging out, enjoying snacks and drinks and playing volleyball and all sorts of sports and just building community. And it was just a really kind of cool, humbling experience to kind of stand in the middle of them and just kind of talk with them and tell them kind of who I am, what the group is, and to realize, we've been blessed with such a big growth like that.
So cool.
We have, we use a bunch of different mediums for kind of connecting things. GroupMe is like our primary platform. We're actually about to crack 2,000 members.
2,000?
Yeah.
Dang, it was like 1,400 yesterday, I felt like.
That's what I thought too. And just posting here and there, and just we'll hit little pockets and new people will see it for the first time and join in. Almost 2,000, and we've got different topics for volleyball, hiking, climbing, pickleball, running, tennis, a buy-sell chat, business promotions, just all sorts of stuff, roommate finding, just all of the different things that I've seen a need for in our Nashville community, all consolidated into one kind of easy to use spot.
So cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. For us, the big thing that we do is we call it a coffee pop-up. And we do it out of our house, so it's not like a coffee shop or we don't go anywhere. And So it kind of limits the amount of people that we can have, but I think it makes it feel like a safe place and where people can really feel comfortable and feel at home. And so we have a passion for baking and for coffee. So we bake all of the stuff that we supply. We make all the coffee syrups. We try to source our coffee from really good quality places.
Oh, wow. So you ain't just like going to Albertsons or something. And
Sometimes we
buying something.
do.
Okay.
Sometimes.
We do have a vendor at the local farmers market who's a
Okay.
neat Christian family who we told them about our pop-up, and so we'll see them every once in a while, and they're like, hey, you need a free bag of beans. So they've kind of partnered with us a little
Wow.
bit to like
Yeah.
help us and push this vision that we have.
Yeah,
That's cool.
They really liked what we were doing, and so they said, we want to support you. So we'll get, like she said, we'll get beans from them every once in a while. But our heart in starting this it came from our own desire in building our own community. Because like I said, we moved here 4 years ago. We knew nobody.
Yeah.
And so in building friendship is kind of like a slow roll. And so for the first year, we didn't really have that many friendships. And I was like, I don't really have anybody I feel like I could call if anything went wrong. And so kind of assessing. And I feel like, I mean, even the golden rule in the Bible is just like, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I know that there are so many people that have a desire for community and they don't know how to go about building that, or they just feel lost and they just are overwhelmed with like the opportunities, or it's scary. And so knowing that I had a desire to build community myself, I'm like, other people have the same desire. And so we have the passion of baking. And so people love coffee. So why don't we just have our friends come to our house instead of going to a coffee shop, and then it's more personable and we can scale it if possible. So
I love that.
We didn't want to force anything. We didn't want it to feel, I don't know, like you're striving. So we just, first one, we invited 10, 13, 15 people. And so,
Well, the first one was all women.
Yeah, it was
too,
all
'cause
women.
We had a large group of
So it's
women that we were
co-ed
getting
what
to
you
know.
guys do.
Now
it
it's
is.
co-ed,
Okay.
yes.
But when we
Got it.
started, it was like 13 women
Okay.
that came,
Yeah.
because that's at the time we only knew women.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to, again, force anything or make it like striving for create something that it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so started with that, and then
yeah.
If you put 13 women in a room, men will show up.
That's
That is true. That is very true.
I've learned this.
But we, throughout the year, from like volleyball, and we met friends, and they were able to start inviting their community. And so then it's built into what it is today. And so now we have about, I think the most we've had is like 60 people in our
In your
home.
house?
And so we do
I
about,
hope you have a
it's
big
open
house.
house. So it's kind of like people come, people go. So it's
okay.
never 60 at one time,
No.
but it's like over the
Got
course of the 5 or 6 hours that we're
Wow.
open, that
Yeah.
we have the 60 people come.
so we do about 5 hours, and say, come, if you want to invite for your friend, let us know. We'll send a link.
Yeah.
And we do Evite. So that's how we kind of get the word out. We have about 200 people on our list right now. And so, and we constantly have people coming into our house, and they're like, hi. And we're like, hi, like, welcome. I don't know you, but like, come in. So we have people that are entering into this space because they've been invited. And so it's definitely something to get used to, having people you never know walk into your home.
Did they ever trash your home?
Nope. No,
Okay,
everyone
good.
is
Okay.
so
everyone's been very
respectful.
respectful of
And,
their space.
yeah. So our heart, is just to build community and just to provide a space that people feel safe and seen and loved. And
So cool.
it just breaks it down to just a more personal level.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that we desire in that space, and we've seen it a few times, but we want people to feel the love of God in it too.
Let's go.
And so we want them to be to bear witness to a community of believers. And so if their only interaction with Jesus is through this space, then like we've been like, that is the heart of it.
Yeah.
And so, and we actually, we've had some people that said, if I wouldn't have come, then I wouldn't be where I am today, because
Wow.
they were able to be in community and meet people. So now that when they do go to church, or they are entering back into spaces where like God is like a church, then they know people and they don't feel so alone or isolated.
Yeah.
So
And what you guys are doing is so important for the body of Christ, because a lot of people feel disconnected at church. And so you guys provide that space for them to actually like develop relationship. Like people have a innate desire to be known.
Yeah.
And you guys are providing those spaces for people to be known. I love that.
Yeah, no, I think one thing that's been really cool too is just seeing our group of friends that we've built come around us in this space. So for us, we do the baking, we do the cooking, we provide the space, but we're behind the counter the whole time. And so it's about like the community that we've built and like the people that enter in and are willing to enter in with us.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're the ones that are helping us to welcome people in. Because sometimes me and Leslie, when we're, you know, making the coffee, doing the things, like we get busy. And so we don't have time to reach out and see the new person that comes in. But like our community that we've built has see those people. And so it's like, we might not get to say, hey, welcome to the person that we don't know the first time, but the community around us has been so amazing in partnering with us that when they see that new person coming in who's kind of like, what am I walking into? They're reaching out and bringing them in and drawing them in. So it's not even just about us. It's about the amazing community people that we've had that are like willing to partner with us and like make this like a welcoming, safe place where people can come and build that community and not be scared.
So cool. That's all. I love that.
Yeah. And I can personally vouch for both of these events, you know, the coffee pop-up and Nashville Connect. I've been to both of them multiple times, and it's very different outlets, but both really great places to connect with people. And Brian, you said something a minute ago about like, you know, when people go into churches and sometimes they have a hard time figuring out how to connect. Something that I've learned that I think is so beautiful about what happens with people that are community builders is if you go to almost any church in the area and ask them, what's the number one challenge that you have? I think that most of them would say, people show up and say, I can't figure out how to get connected.
Right.
And inevitably what churches do oftentimes is they'll say, oh, well, we're going to have a Wednesday Connect night that's just dedicated to this one cause. And they're like, you know, we should kind of, to break the ice, we'll start with a few songs of worship, and then we'll have the pastor get up and, you know, share a few little vision casting ideas. And then we're going to have a time of prayer. And it's like, you just recreated Sunday morning. That's where people can't connect.
Right.
That's where people are struggling with. And it's like this gravitational pull that unfortunately that's what happens the majority of the time. And one thing that I've seen over recent years is a lot of people that are doing what this group does, which is figuring out a way to connect just for the sake of connecting.
Right.
And so I think that that's just a great thing that I've seen. And really, in my opinion, that's how it should be. It's members of the body of Christ doing the work of Christ. So it's like, we don't have to rely on an organization to, you know, feed me, give me all of my community and all of my scripture and all of my worship. It's people maturing into what they're supposed to be as a believer.
100%. Like I'm a worship leader, a musician. I love worship, but every time Christians get together, we don't always have to have a worship night.
Yeah.
We can do something else. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like for me, I had a friend who started something years ago that was a community building effort in town. And she had asked me to be part of what she called her steering committee, which is, you know, trying to figure out how to manage this thing that the Lord had kind of put in her hands. And she told me at one point, she was like, Caleb, people keep telling me that I'm missing an opportunity for ministry and that I should have someone share, preach the gospel, do worship, do prayer, do outreach. And I was like, what if you just believe that this group of people coming together and connecting is spiritual enough? What if you believe that this is their opportunity to come and find what they need, and that this is actually what's missing from their lives, and that's why they're gravitating towards it? And you know, that's not to downplay any of the other things, but I believe it's valuable of its own accord. And that's something that I think really a lot of people would do well to grasp, is that it doesn't have to be the worship night, you know? So to answer the question, what I've done is, so as long as I can remember, I've always kind of been a gatherer. Over the past few years, I've had maybe a couple of different outlets for how I've done that. One of them is an event called Community Social that's roughly once a month.
Okay.
But I don't put it on a set schedule because I get tired of it and people wear me out and flakiness drives me crazy.
Yeah,
and
let's
I
talk
just,
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do it when I want to do it.
Okay.
And so I kind of give myself that autonomy.
Yeah.
But it's roughly once a month, and it's a large format with no agenda other than bringing people into the same room together to connect. And then from there, a lot of times, if there's 100 people that show up, maybe I know 95 of them, but then I meet 5 new people. And sometimes it's like, oh, man, I met someone that I really connected with. I'd like to hang out with them again.
Yeah.
So maybe I'd plan a dinner or a game night or something like that. That's like small format where you really got the chance to get to know people more intimately.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what's a way to do that on scale?
Yeah.
And so I started something called Dinner Party, which was a monthly dinner.
Yeah.
And you could sign up on a website, and if each month you'd get a chance to RSVP and be put into a small group of people. So if you had 70 RSVP, might be 10 groups of 7. So it gave people a chance to kind of get to know someone on a smaller scale. And I'm no longer running that. I actually passed that off to Ben and our friend Tally, who are running that now.
Yeah.
And my heart behind doing all of these things is I believe that people are made incomplete, and the only way we find what we need in life is by learning how to relate to other people.
Yeah.
And learning how to connect with other people. And I know that saying that can like sound harsh, or it's very much not like the Oprah prophets out there that you're perfect just the way you are.
Right,
you're complete, just by yourself. I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
And coming from a biblical worldview, I don't even think it's supported in scripture. God never says, you're complete or you're whole on your own. In fact, the first thing in scripture that God said wasn't good was for man to be alone.
Right.
That's good.
That's true.
And his solution was not a Bible study. It wasn't more time in prayer. His solution was Eve.
Right.
It was a relationship and connection. And I believe that applies to a lot of different things. It applies to romantic relationships and family and friendships and business. I think that it's universally true that no one is complete on their own, and that the only way we find what we need in life is by learning how to relate and connect with other people.
Yeah.
And so that has really been my heart behind it, is creating a platform where that can happen.
Yeah.
And even just to add in, even God himself is community. It's the Trinity of,
That's true.
God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like
Mhm.
from the get-go, it was the 3 of them. Community is intrinsic to really, from a biblical worldview, the whole world from the beginning of time. I think that's a really good point too. What you said, there was Adam, God was like, nope, not enough. And then Eve for that kind of completion, that companionship, that, beginning of community. And that's what I've started telling people more and more is, Christian or not, and whether or not you like it, you could be introverted, extroverted, whatever. It is intrinsic to us to need and want people in community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You might think I can, lone wolf through life. Some people can do a better job of that than others, but you truly do not reach your peak fulfillment. I mean, you can even look at, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we all need it, whether or not we realize it or like it.
Yeah.
We need people. And, in this day and age of, we're the most connected we've ever been in terms of social media, and you can easily access hundreds and thousands of people and their lives. But ironically enough, that's actually made us potentially the most disconnected we've ever been in a true human person-to-person sense. And I think it's, people like us and our, peers and kind of the community builders who are tackling these things, head on. Again, I remember thinking back and even almost getting upset at God for a few months of wondering, why couldn't I find this? Why couldn't I find someone doing what is now Nashville Connect? Just a big open platform to go hang out for free every week and play volleyball in the middle of a park. I'm like, why the heck is no one else doing this?
To see the need is to hear the call.
Exactly.
That's
And then
right.
finally one day after church, I was like, oh, wait, maybe I have this passion that won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I have like the basic skill set that could probably do it. Maybe I just have to get over myself, get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things I've been learning these past few years is you got to stop snoozing, get out of the comfort zone. And if you have the basic gifting and the passion, God equips the called.
Yep.
He doesn't call the equipped. You have to step, into the river or whatever the passion of the calling is. Then the waters will part. And then you keep going. And suddenly, I thought I was an introvert who was terrified. And I was terrified of public speaking. Fast forward 2 years, there's only almost 2,000 people who I can just casually post a message to. And like, they see it and I feel fine about it. Or I can stand in front of, 100 or 200 of our peers and just babble for 5 or 10 minutes and feel completely at ease. Never would have thought I'd be there. So all of that to come back and say, yes, we need community, whether or not we like it or know it. And I think we're seeing more and more, I think, of those of us who have that heart and that call, unfortunately, are now starting to step out more and more and do it and build it at scale.
Yeah. It can be uncomfortable to say that you need community or that you need other people, or to say I'm incomplete on my own. That can be very uncomfortable. And the reason for that is it's not entirely in my control to create that. It requires cooperation from other people. And so a lot of times I find what we do is we default to these fig leaves, to use a biblical reference, like Adam and Eve in the garden after the fall, they created clothing of fig leaves to cover their nakedness. And I think we still do the same thing today, where it's like, oh, I've just been so busy with work or whatever. It's like, well, I'm focused on this other thing right now. And it's like, it's easier to create that fig leaf, but it's like, that's a fig leaf to cover up the fact that you are vulnerable. You need something that is not entirely in your control. It's not beyond your efforts, but it is beyond your control.
Yeah.
And even in the biblical story, when God comes to find them in the Garden of Eden, God says, "Where are you?" And they said, "We hid ourselves because we were naked." It's like, wait a minute, what about your fancy fig leaves? I thought you made something to cover yourself. But even with their own covering, they knew that they were naked, even though they had their coverings on them. And the same happens with us. It's like we come up with these little phrases to try to shield ourselves against the reality that we need other people. But at the end of the day, we kind of know it. You know it in your soul.
Yeah. Do you think that's why so many people are lonely and it's so hard to build community today, is because we want to remain in control, essentially?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reasons. I think it starts with a wrong belief system about it. I'll use this analogy. There are things in life that serve a purpose, and there are things in life that bring pleasure, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. For example, if you go to the gym and lift weights, you can really enjoy that. That can be a hobby for you. So that's both pleasurable and serving a purpose.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you like to binge watch The Bachelor. Like, besides rotting your soul, you besides rotting your soul, like, maybe you enjoy it, but you can't say that there's anything particularly useful about that or purposeful. And so making a distinction between those two, I believe that most people don't understand that community is like lifting weights, not like The Bachelor.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be enjoyable, it can be pleasurable, but also it serves a purpose. And the problem is that they have related to it strictly as entertainment. And so if your favorite show that you binge watch is on and you're not in the mood for it, there's no reason to do that. Why would you watch it if it doesn't serve a purpose? It's only there for entertainment. But the gym, like, you can't only do that when you feel like it. You have to do it all the time and be consistent with it.
Yep.
And if you're relating to community like it's just entertainment, you're going to flake out on stuff. You're going to say yes and then not show up or not respond to text messages or not reach out. But if you're consistent and actually build those relationships, then you have something that's purposeful in your life. I think a good litmus test to figure out how you're relating to it is the mental checklist that a lot of people kind of subconsciously go through. It's like, does this sound fun? Who's going to be there? Am I going to know anybody?
Yeah.
Is
You're
it
so
gonna
spot on.
be, did I have a long day? Am I tired? Do I have the energy level? And it's like, you're only thinking of it as entertainment.
Whoa.
You can't go through that checklist when it's the gym. Well, did I have a long day today? Well, I'm not going to lift weights. You know, so it's like, that's the only way that you build something meaningful with it.
Yeah, I was say I think there's also a sense of fear sometimes with community. I think that was a huge part for me in my story is like I have a lot of like fear built up from like hurt in relationship. And so like for me there was like even now it's like I'm still like healing and trying to get over but like heal from those hurts.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there is a part of me that wants to like draw back from community and like isolate, but I know that it's not good because I have done that in the past. But like building this community and the friends that we have and realizing that it's so important, but it was a sense of fear. And like, I think that's a good way to like weightlifting is a good way to look at it. That you need to do it. And the more you do it, the better you feel. And like, that is like, oh, I can do that. It gets easier as you go more.
That's big.
But like, just trying to work through that fear because it does kind of freeze you from wanting to go and be a part of that. Cause it's like, well, what if I am rejected? What if that thing happens again? What if, you know? And so I've let that rule me in the past. And so it's like, I'm still trying to get over that as like, I'm creating this space, but it's like, I want, that's why like when we do our coffee pop-up, we say we want it to be a peaceful place where people can feel at home. And so it creates a easy, like lower barrier of entry, you know? So if people have that fear or don't know like the situation, it's like, oh, it's coffee. Oh, it's, you know, cake or not. We don't do cake, but like scones, coffee and scones. And so it's like a low barrier of entry to create like a space because like fear is a real thing with like community and friendship because I know so many people have probably had that rejection or whatever with community.
Well, I think it's not just fear, but like the anxiety. And I feel like the enemy really lies to us and like the thoughts that are constantly hounding us of like, nobody's going to want me there. Or I'm just going to be a burden or it's scary or, you know, all they are lies. And we listen to them so much and we burden ourselves because like when we're not in community, I think we lose a lot of the power we have to combat the enemy because we don't have people speaking into our lives the truth of the word. And obviously, like if we're in the word and we're reading, then we have truth to combat the enemy ourselves. But like to be fortified and to be built up and to be poured into, that helps us in like when we do our week to have people to pour into us and speak to us of like, no, that is not who God says you are, and like calling us up and calling that iron sharpens iron. And I feel like the enemy really hounds us and really gets at our minds and builds the anxiety in us when it's a space that we actually really need to be. Yeah. Because there's people we need to meet or maybe conversations we really need to have. And so I think that's something that I've really been working on in myself is like, it's easy to do stuff in my own home and it's for me, but when I have to go and interact in other people's social interaction or social activities, it's like, do I want to go? I'm like, yeah, I do, but like, what about this or what about that? And I start to have those anxieties even in myself. And so making sure that I don't eliminate myself from a potential blessing is something that I think people need to really be aware of because we need to enter in and that's on us to do that. So
true.
So if I can just add real quick, I think Haylie, maybe what you had said, and kind of with Caleb's, thinking about it as kind of your community strength or whatever, thinking about reps and really focusing on that and kind of digging into like the gym metaphor. It's something while I haven't actively thought about that, I see kind of the comparisons in what I've been doing with Nashville Connect. If you think of, you go into a gym, you're not going to go there if there's one weight machine. There's only one thing. You can only work out one muscle group or
Unless
whatever.
it's a squat rack.
Unless it's a squat rack. You could kill a
Then
lot of
you
birds
show
with
up
that
and you do
stone.
leg
For
day.
sure. Leg day, baby. But outside of that, I've kind of, to liken it to the gym, what my thought is, people like a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, not big into dancing, at least not yet. I won't
Amen,
really show
brother.
up to dancing events, but you give me anything like volleyball or pickleball related, oh, for sure, I'm there. And I know a lot of people at game nights, I'll do them, I'll enjoy them. They're not necessarily my favorite, but I'll do them, I'll host them, I'll show up typically. Other people, that's the main thing they'll show up to and enjoy and really open up and connect with others. And they wouldn't be caught dead at anything like athletic or outdoorsy. And I've come to realize and understand and respect that. So now I'm thinking, okay, how can I, under my umbrella, host all of these different things to give open and like consistent opportunities for people to get reps with the community building muscle and kind of show up and like meet people. It's fun, it's casual, and also make the reps really, really low weight. And what I mean by that is, even from when I started the group, I wanted it to be a very easy on-ramp, quote unquote, into good, healthy, clean, positive community for Christians and non-Christians to get together. Because again, I have a little bit of church hurt myself, and thinking, for those who either didn't grow up in the church or maybe they did and they just got kind of burned away from it, the thought of going from zero to, oh, I want to get community, but it's going to be in a church building or in a church setting or like an explicitly kind of Christian-only environment, that's going to deter so many people. But instead, if they now hear about, oh, it's like Christian based, but they welcome everyone, they're not pushing an agenda, we're just showing up for free, which for us 20s and 30s is huge, for free every Friday night. So there's consistency. They can show up when they want, skip it when they want, in the middle of a park or a gym or something, and we're doing a bunch of different things. Oh, for sure. And I think that's why it's grown so well, or one of the big reasons is they can show up. There's no agenda, Caleb, like how you do for yours. There's no agenda or pushing of anything. It's show up. You can hop in on volleyball games. You're going to naturally meet people that way. Or if sports aren't your thing, cool. We have games and like video games and different things going on this side. So you can just kind of gravitate around and just kind of get reps in that way. And then over time, suddenly you now have 30 friends because you've just been showing up and doing things. Again, that's how it's worked for me. Like I didn't think any of this was like my forte, but I started getting reps by telling myself I'm going to be consistent with every week, just putting myself out there, hosting events, doing things. And fast forward after basically 2 years of it, I'm, I don't want to say popular, but like fairly well known around Nashville for, I'll meet strangers at coffee shops and I'll start to tell them about Nashville Connect, and they'll say, oh my gosh, like I'm actually in your group, or like I follow you on socials. And it just kind of freaks me out each time, but in a good way. So yeah, I think that's a really good analogy, thinking about the gym. And you want to go to a gym that's well stocked with different options and how you can work out different muscle groups. And, you might love leg day and hate chest day. And so now you can go in and do that, or vice versa. So that's a good analogy to dig into.
Thanks. I keep saying that I have no agenda with my events, but one day I'm just going to show up and start selling essential oils.
I could do that too.
Do you want to be your own boss? Have a 6-figure income potential working from home?
Sounds great. Sign me up. Sign me up. I'm in. Just kidding.
Start my own MLM.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah. So what are some of you guys' pet peeves around community? Like maybe
Flakiness.
And what's your mindset around that? Let's just go there for a second.
I mean, I would have to say, just from experiencing like Seattle culture and Nashville culture, people in Nashville tend to be so much better at showing up. Their yes actually means a yes. I mean, you do get people that are flaky, but we were even trying to build community in Washington, and we would invite 20 people to something and 3 people would show up. But you'd have 15 people like, oh yeah, maybe. And the maybes suck.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I think that in Nashville that there is a desire for community that I've never seen before.
I would say that's true from
And-
my experience.
Yeah. And there's just like, there is a willingness for people to just show up
Yeah.
because they want to be known. They want to have friends. They want to join in, and they, so I'd say, yes, there's still flakiness. Don't get me wrong. But I think as a whole, Nashville culture is so much better at showing up. But that's just my experience.
Sounds like Seattle would be my own personal hell.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might have changed, but the Seattle freeze is a real thing that we experienced.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest pet peeves is flakiness. It's I cannot tell you how many times I've had someone say, you know, I've got this friend that says they need to get plugged in, or the person will reach out to me personally and be like, I really need community, or hey, I hear you're the person to help me get connected with people. And I'll invite them to 5 or 6 events and they don't show up to any of them. And so that's why you're lonely. You don't do anything. And I think one of the big problems with that is the lies that people tell themselves about it.
Wow.
Like, it's probably a mistake to ever say the words, I'm a bad texter, in front of me. I hate that so bad. People are like, oh, I'm a bad texter. No, you're not. You're not. You're lying. Pull out your phone.
Yeah.
Let's look at your messages. Let's look at how many you sent. Now, if you want to be honest with yourself, who are you choosing to respond to and who are you choosing to ignore?
Right.
But saying I'm a bad texter is a lie. Or I responded to it in my head. And no, you didn't. That's never happened when you wanted a job.
Yeah. Right.
When you were waiting for a paycheck, or you wanted, you went to an interview, that's never happened where I thought I responded in my head and then I never clicked send. And it's like, but people just lie about these things. And we have a culture that allows people to, like, no one ever holds anyone accountable on, like, it's flaky, it's ghosting, you're revealing your character. Your character is the part of you that doesn't change regardless of your circumstance.
Yeah.
And if you can have the good character to respond to the job that you're getting something from, but you don't have good character with other people, then you really don't have good character.
Wow.
And I think that is one of the things that I've seen that's a really big challenge is not taking ownership of one's own community building efforts. It's not enough to just wait for the next thing. Of like, if you need community in your life, it's not enough to be like, oh, well, Ben will do something soon. Haylie and Leslie will do something soon. Caleb will do something soon. I'll just wait for the next thing. And I know why people do that. I know that it's hard because I've been through it myself. In order to build community, you have to go through enormous amounts of rejection.
Yeah, it's true.
It's unbelievable, nearly unbearable amounts of rejection to go through to build something where there's a large number of people following what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
The number of times that people are like, why does this person invite me to this? What's it going to be? What do they want from me? Why does this person message me about this? How come I got an auto-generated invitation? It's like, it wasn't auto-generated. I sent it to you individually.
Yeah.
But it's like that amount of rejection. And one of the things that I've learned is stop trying to figure out how to avoid rejection and start learning how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's a good word.
It's the only thing that I've found that works for me anyway, is if I'm going to live the life that I'm called to live, I'm going to face rejection. And if I spend all of my time wincing and being afraid of opportunities because I'm afraid, then I'm not going to live up to my potential. Instead,
really good.
I need to be mature and learn how to respond when rejection happens, knowing that it's going to.
Yeah.
And one of the things too that I found that is an effective way for dealing with fear of going to events and things like that, because you know, when you're the one hosting, there is something that's easier about it. Because it's like you have a reason to be there. You're the person that everybody walks up to and says hi. There's something that's easier about that. But if I'm showing up to someone else's event, then all of the same thoughts go through my mind that goes through everybody else's of, are people going to like me? Who am I going to talk to? Am I going to know anybody? The best way that I found to combat social anxiety is to take yourself out of being a consumer and make yourself a contributor, and show up to the room, figure out who else is experiencing those same emotions and solve their problem.
Let's go.
Like, introduce yourself to them, introduce them to someone else, even if you just met them 12 seconds ago. You know, it doesn't matter. You can still introduce the people, help them figure out how to connect to each other, what their common ground is, how they relate, what do they need in life? Are you new to town? Do you have a job? What are you looking for? You know, and if you go about the business of solving problems for other people, all of a sudden you figure out, like, I'm not self-conscious because I wasn't spending the whole night thinking about myself. I am not conscious of myself. I'm figuring out how to solve other people's other people's problems, and that's something that I found is a really big help for that as well.
Sounds like you're being selfless. You're trying to be selfless.
And you can do that at any event, whether you're hosting the event. I mean, I would especially hope you do it, or help kind of encourage others to do that. And kind of, because again, if I'm at an event and I have 100 people there, I probably know most of them at this point, and I want to probably have individual conversations, and just time and energy does not allow for it in most settings. But even, you know, if I show up to your event, having that kind of mindset of like, okay, I'm going to go out of my way and meet 3 new people tonight, or I'm going to watch for someone who's maybe shown up for the first time and they've got that like deer in headlights kind of off to the side look. Okay, Caleb will probably find him at some point, but whether or not he does, I'm going to go chat with them too. Start chatting. Oh my gosh, they love pickleball. I'm dragging them straight to Caleb and making that introduction, because all 3 of us are going to, you know, hit it off over that. Or they're new to town and they're looking for community. Cool. I can tell them about what I do, what else Caleb does. Having that mindset of, I know we've talked a lot about that, you know, consumer versus creator. I mean, really, Christians as a whole should be more so creators, or do a lot more creating than simply consuming, but especially in the like community aspect. Growing up, that was kind of a complaint or disappointment of mine. I was often the one to reach out to friends just to communicate or set things up, and very rarely receive it. Like I said, I was kind of the quiet, introverted, like, or so I thought, kid. So I didn't get invited to a ton of things. And I mean, going back to your early question, what was it hit me a minute ago, what was kind of an awkward situation or social situation? And I've not shared publicly or with many people, but early on, when it was still the Zeal Church 20s and 30s sports and events group, we had, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 people in the group chat, just really, really small. But it was a Friday night. It was rainy. This was only a few months, maybe a month or two into starting it, whatever. And I was trying to get us together, and we were going to go to East Side Bowl. And I had a few people say, yes, they're going to show up. And I drove like to the other side of town, and I got there and proceeded to hang out for an hour or two, and no one else showed up. And I was mortified. I knew that no one else knew. No one in the group knew. No one else would know if I never shared it with people. But I awkwardly just bopped around East Side Bowl for like an hour or two, just waiting, kind of messaging people.
Did
no
you
one
bowl
else
by yourself?
Considered it, but I was like, no, that would do me in.
Visual.
Yeah.
Did you win?
I could and lost, both won and lost, but just kind of like tail between the legs, walking out of there. Legitimately had the thoughts of, this could be it. I could just kill this off. How embarrassing and mortifying and a waste of my evening. That I tried this. I put myself out there in front of all these people, and no one showed up. No one prioritized it. What the heck am I doing? Like, but fortunately, something in me said, no, just keep going. You've got to keep pushing the momentum, show the consistency. You know, if you build it, they will come, hopefully. And sure enough, fortunately, I was, you know, kind of blessed with the consistency and the patience with it. And fast forward to where we are, you know, again, about to cross 2,000. You know, again, not nearly all of them have shown up. Man, if I had 2,000 people try to show up to Centennial Park at the same time on a Friday night, That'd be a heck of a
I
time.
have some cops there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Funny enough, and I don't have a ton of details. I can't share too much about it yet. It's still kind of an early on thing, but I've started talking with Caleb and a few other close friends of mine, actually cooking up an idea to actually do something like that. How could I get 500, 1,000, 2,000 20s and 30s together this spring or summer in the middle of a park, probably not Centennial Park, but do something and just basically make the biggest field day, community day Nashville has seen ever. So
Oh, make news headlines, I feel.
I actually have a few news reporter friends who I'm if I could slip them a 20 and ask them to cover it, that'd be a really good investment.
Yeah,
So just wanted to announce that here, just kind of putting that out there. So stay tuned.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you ladies? Did you guys have any pet peeves you wanted to share?
I think sometimes people are just so unaware.
Hmm.
And especially I'd say again in the context of our pop-ups is sometimes the amount of things that we make, we're worried that it's going to get, or everyone's going to be able to get something. And obviously at a regular coffee shop, if you sell out, you're tough luck, but we want people to be seen and loved and feel like they are participating. And so sometimes we'll put out a sign of just eat one, and we'll look over and people are filling their, it's just, it just doesn't feel respectful sometimes. And other times we're all we're wrapping up, chow down, eat what you want.
Yeah.
But especially when we're expecting a larger number and we're just okay, there is only a certain amount of baked goods, or we have a certain amount of syrups. No, we're not going to make you a second or third drink. Sometimes they're oh, why can't I get another one? And you're just we want to be able to love other people well too. And so sometimes that is a pet peeve for me. It's just people coming in, I guess it's that consumeristic mindset.
Yeah.
And they have a lack of awareness that other people.
There's someone else than just me in this world? Oh, wow.
Crazy.
And the interesting thing is, for example, their coffee pop-up that they do it all on donation basis.
Wow.
So if people walk in and then get to their car and they're oh my gosh, I forgot to donate. Oh, well, free coffee.
Someone paid for it.
Someone paid for it. They're sitting right here.
Yeah.
But that mentality comes from someone who hasn't hosted and created for other people.
That's really good.
Because I guarantee you it wouldn't slip Ben's mind or my mind, or a month or two ago it did slip my mind, and about halfway through the month I sent a Venmo because I was oh my gosh, I can't believe I walked out. But it's that's something that I value. I love what they're doing. I look forward to it. It's on my calendar. I know I'm going to have a good time. I know I'm going to be there. And it's why wouldn't I do something to support that? And that mentality of kind of consumer versus contributor thing is something I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about, because I think it impacts so much of our culture.
100%.
And I'm not going to go on a tangent about the woes of social media or anything or technology, but I will say that I have a pretty strong belief that our phones have used Pavlovian response training to program us to behave like consumers. And that's not me, saying it's some big evil, wicked agenda. I'm just saying that when you open up your phone, all of those apps are a business and they're trying to make money.
True.
The only way that they can make money is for you to interact with it as if you are a consumer and whatever it shows you is a product. Now, if you're on Amazon, that's fine because you're actually a consumer and those are products. That's not a bad thing. But the problem is most of our time spent on our phones is on social media and things like that. And the problem is I think that people have internalized viewing other people as products for their consumption.
Wow.
And that goes beyond just our phones. We walk into a room and people scan the room as if they're looking at a shelf in the grocery store to see if they want any of those products. But that's not what it is. These are humans. And, when that behavior infiltrates the way that you're interacting with other people, that's when you do things like disrespect what someone is creating and the efforts that they've put into it. And I think the cure to that is to start being a contributor yourself. You know, host something, reach out to people, connect to people in whatever way you can.
Yeah.
And I realize that not everybody's an extrovert. Not everybody has the giftings or skills of, you know, someone who does these type of events, but community is not a personality type. People that are introverted need community just as much as people that are extroverted.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's the breaking point kind of for like becoming a consumer to a builder or creator is like, what is your breaking point of like your desire for community?
Yeah.
And have you hit it or not? And some people have like a higher threshold than others. And so I'd say we've all hit our breaking point of like, we want this, so we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And some people don't ever hit that breaking point where they turn from the desire into the action of actually creating community.
Wow.
But I think maybe it's getting ahead of ourselves. I don't know. But something that I've realized is that in creating community, you have to be okay to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
And what I mean by saying that is like for us, when we are preparing for our coffee pop-up, it's 10, 15 hours of cleaning, baking, making stuff, creating the space, buying supplies, like planning, menu, like we have a menu building and printing it and just creating like the space for people to come into it's a lot of time. And obviously it's unique because we're baking and whatnot, but you have to be okay to be inconvenienced of like your time or your money or your space or whatever. And if you're not okay with being inconvenienced, then you're probably not going to be creating a space for others to enter in. So I don't know.
All
That's
good things take effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sacrifice.
And just a real quick add to that, something I've kind of learned and have started telling myself and some others more recently is kind of the basis or part of the basis of how or why I built what is now Nashville Connect is realizing, and I should refine this quote so I can truly claim it, but if what you want to see or be a part of either does not exist or it exists and you just cannot seem to break into it, you may very well be the one who has to build it. Like I said, for Nashville Connect and what it's become is like from the small group, I had a growing vision and passion for what I wanted. I wanted to be a part of it, but I wanted someone else to do it and lead it. I didn't think I could or should or that I'd be the one to do it. And then over time I realized, okay, well, no one else seems to be doing it and it doesn't seem to exist. Or if it does, it's for different cliques and groups and it's kind of small scales and pocketed. So I guess I've got to be the one to get out of the comfort zone and, like you said, inconvenience yourself. I have invested a lot of time, a good amount of money, and just effort being the one to build and scale it. Again, still to date, I don't really have a team yet. It's something I'm thinking about and working towards. But like, I run the socials, I plan the events, I manage the money. I'm the one running through Costco like a madman to get all the snacks and drinks each week. I'm, setting up. I own most of the sports gear that we use. Like, it's been a whole lot. But again, realizing that what I wanted didn't seem to exist. And for it to exist, I had to be the one to kind of step out and try it and lead it. So that's a good word of encouragement that I want to extend to others is if they want to see something, if they want to see a local bike riding group or running group or horse riding group or book reading group, whatever they want to see and they have some vision or passion for, and they probably exist, but they might not know about it, or it might be a more, I don't want to say elite, but like a more niche or like clicked up smaller group that they just cannot break into. They might have to be the ones to go start up a group me and start talking to people face to face to invite them into it. They have to plan the events. They have to be okay with the awkwardness of taking an evening and showing up and not another soul showing up, and just work through the mortification of that and still being consistent for it to then grow. Because I'll say, and kind of like Caleb was getting at, the fulfillment that comes from, and just the like eye-opening awareness that comes from, and y'all have seen it too, of being a creator. We can now speak the same languages and like the understandings and the frustrations. The pet peeves question is a really good one, because like it's certain things that we're gonna be able to like talk about and even vent about with each other that most people who are simply consumers, they say, ooh, here's a free fun event or a ticketed event that's shown up on my phone. All I have to do is pay the amount or just take the time, show up, consume, leave trash or tidy up or whatever, and then go home. They often don't see or realize everything that goes on kind of on the back end of, I mean, I had no idea, 10, 15 hours, basically a month.
Respect.
Yeah.
We
So-
love it though, so
Yeah,
it's
we
a
love the
passion
process.
project.
Exactly. And that's what I tell people too, is like, when they're like, oh my gosh, you do so much, you're adding, now it's almost 2,000 people. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it. It doesn't really feel like work or that much work to me. Like I did a lot of the work up front, and now it's kind of very automated to where people just share the link. I see a quick notification. So-and-so wants to join your group. I tap a button, they're in, and they now have access to, I can't call it the promised land per se, but like they have access to a great bit of community. Now the ball is in their court. They have to show up. So as far as like pet peeves, that's kind of been my thing. It's like people are like, oh, I can't meet people, or like in the Christian singles world, oh, I can't find good people. I can't find community. And now that I'm kind of building and creating and promoting this, I'll just kind of look at them and just kind of turn my head. And I'm like, you know me, you know my community, you know Caleb, you know his community, you know these events. You're receiving the invites, you're seeing it. You say you want and prioritize this, but then you don't follow it with your actions and show up. That can definitely like frustrate me. And
I
there
don't
are a lot of-
understand that.
I think that one strong encouragement I would have for those who are looking for community, like if you're listening to this podcast and you think I want community, stop looking for a finished product and start looking for opportunities.
That's good.
Yeah, you like what you need is to execute on opportunities rather than find the finished product. It's like we've all had that night where it's like you're hanging out with like your core group, the ones that get your sense of humor, you've done life together, the evening feels effortless, the vibe's good, all that sort of stuff. That is the byproduct of having built community. It's not the manner in which it's built.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like that's the finished product, but that's not how community shows up. It shows up like you got an invitation to something that you feel anxious about going to. You don't know if it's going to be fun. And you go to 10 of those and 9 of them aren't good.
Yeah.
You don't like it. You didn't meet anybody. It's not, but you keep doing it and being consistent.
Get the
Like the gym.
Get the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think looking for those opportunities to show up and build your own is really one of the biggest steps that separates the I want from community from I have community.
So good.
And sometimes it's easy is identifying something you're passionate about or something that you have a love for, and finding like just start talking to people and be like, oh, I love this, I love that. And if you find one person with that same passion, like bring them into it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other people that have that same desire to talk to somebody about, pickleball. Yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
just like,
Y'all play pickleball? I play pickleball.
We all play pickleball.
but I mean, because like we love coffee and we love baking, so we're like, okay, let's do what we can.
Yeah.
And it's grown into what it is because people want to enter into that. And so it's just find something you're passionate about and create a space for it.
Yeah. So
And
good. My biggest fear is if people don't implement what you guys are talking about, like treating community like you go to the gym, being willing to inconvenience yourself, like all the things that you guys have talked about, is people are going to remain really, really lonely.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is you just look at our society and like porn is an epidemic, alcoholism, all these different like coping methods. I believe in a large part because we have a loneliness epidemic. A lot of people out there are really, really freaking lonely.
Yeah.
And so to cope from that, they're turning to sinful behaviors, and the enemy is trapping them and enslaving them in addictions, and they have nobody to talk to about it because they're not in community. And then that just isolates them, and the enemy will just isolate, shame, fear, what people will think. I don't want to talk about like my alcohol problem or whatever. And so that's why it's so important, I believe, to stay in community and have someone who knows you, really that can call you, that you have that trust to be like, hey, Ben, I'm struggling with ABC, like, or I just need a friend. I need to process this. Yep. And so I think it's one of the enemy's strategies is to keep people isolated. So that's why it's so important, so that we can walk in righteousnness and really fulfill God's plans here and fulfill his kingdom. Because we were not meant to do things alone. So it's like, I love what you said, Caleb. Like, we really have to, you worded it so good. It was like, we can't come in like being a consumer, but a contributor. Yeah. And it's like, how can I add and treat this like going to the gym? It's not like, oh, well, do I feel like it today? Like sometimes, you might not feel like going to the gym, but you go. You might not feel like going to this event that Caleb put on, but I said I was going to go. And unless it's a legit excuse, I'm going to show up because he's counting on me because I said I RSVP'd.
Yeah,
I feel that way about my events. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times like I've been like, oh, that's tonight. Don't want to go to this. It like
your own event.
100%. FYI, I'm not quite as extroverted as everyone thinks that I am. Like I'm very, very good with like kind of being alone and doing my own thing, but I have a deeply rooted belief system that I need people. And the kind of like addictive behaviors and stuff that you're talking about, those are the fig leaves that I was referencing earlier. It's masking the vulnerability of I actually need community. And someone can turn to scrolling on their phone for hours on end, or alcohol abuse, or any number of things to inoculate themselves from the reality that they need to be connected with other people while they go on saying, I'm complete, I'm whole, I'm enough all by myself, when you're not, even if you say it 1,000 times.
Jesus had his best friends.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. I think, I was going to say, entering community is as simple as like, for me and Leslie, when we moved here, we knew nobody at all. And so like the first step for us for like finding community was, as cliche as it sounds, serving in our church. Yeah. Like that's where we met like our first like few people. Because like we go to a fairly large church, so it's hard to kind of meet people when you're around just so many people you don't know. Well, for me it is
easy to get lost in the crowd.
Easy to get lost. Yeah. So for me, like my like entry into community here in Nashville was serving in the church, and you meet one person one week, and then the next week you meet another person, and then you start slowly like building ground in community. And then those people were like the first ones to come to our coffee pop-up, for those 13 women. And so like, as cliche as that sounds, just like serve at church.
Yeah. So good.
And then you can build something more that you're passionate about once you like find people.
Yeah. And one thing that's kind of interesting too is like when you talk about build something that you're passionate about, like even though the 3 events that we all kind of represent are all community building, they're very different events with very different kind of hearts behind them. For example, coffee pop-up, y'all are creating something that's comfortable and safe and peaceful and easygoing. And I, create the community socials that's like, hey, check out this brand new venue that just opened a week ago. And it's pretty large format. And Ben creates an opportunity for, it's like any type of event or activity that you could possibly want to be involved in. Nashville Connect has it. Yeah. I'd lose my mind doing that, but Ben's great at it. As a matter of fact, with
undiagnosed ADHD, let's go.
Oh, is that undiagnosed? Interesting. Like with community social, I've had 1,000 times where people have, said, hey, can you create like a central hub? And it's like, no, mostly because I don't want to see you posting for a roommate or seeing who wants to go line dancing tonight.
Right.
But beyond that, it's like that. It's not my heart. It's not my passion. I don't want to be the hub where everybody comes to get their social fix. That's not what I'm about. I want to create an opportunity, a moment in time where you can show up and you can form and build the relationships that you need.
Yeah.
And then you create them and go do that.
Yep.
Like if you're passionate about serving, come to the event, meet other people who are, and then connect with them. I don't need to be the broker of that.
Right.
I don't really want to be the broker of that. And honestly, a big heart behind what I do is to try to use it as a platform to speak to culture about how are we interacting? How are we thinking about these things? What are the belief systems that are motivating our behaviors? And so for me, it's largely about kind of creating opportunity for people to come find what they need and then using that as a chance to speak to the culture and try to cultivate something that feels healthy.
Yeah.
So good.
It's like, that kind of reminds me of just people wanting to be spoon fed. It's just like, you've created the opportunity for them. And like, I think we all are, but at some point they have to take ownership and responsibility of their own desire for building community. It's like, okay, we've created a space for people to come and to meet, get someone's number, like connect, like start building those relationships. But we can't do that for them. We can only create the space.
Show up. Like that is the biggest thing. And like, I get you're shy, you're nervous, anxious, whatever. I'm not going to come to your house and pick you up and drag you. Like I can lead you to water, but I'm not going to dunk your head under and make you like partake in community. Like I'll give you things as queued up as I can. I'll lay out all the details. I'll do all the event planning. And then literally all I need you to do is show up. Most of our events are free. Like we're starting to get into the world of like paid events, and those are really curated, whether they're sports tournaments. Like I've got one cooking up, for a week from today, or, our like Christian singles events, just really addressing those kind of like problems or needs head on. I can do everything I can, but then I need you to show up. And most people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people say they want it, say they need it. They're starting to acknowledge it, but then something else pops up to distract them, or something else comes up and then they don't show up. And I'm like, you're saying you want and prioritize this thing, but then you just let it get replaced by X, Y, or Z. I tell people, just show up to a community social event or to a Friday night in the middle of Centennial Park. You might not know a single soul, but gosh dang it, I'm going to make sure that by the end of the night, you know at least a few souls, and that you hopefully start to become known and seen. And now you have the opportunity to show up to more things, whether pop-up events or scheduled. That's one of the biggest things I tell people is just showing up. Yeah. Don't feel like you have to have it all together, because you never will. I never will. None of us ever will. It's always a work in progress. But simply showing up and having one or two conversations immediately begins to change things for you.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
What is something that y'all have found rewarding about building and creating community?
I think for me, it's like I never seek feedback, because we're doing this because we felt like this is the call that the Lord has put on us. It's like opening our home, building community and whatnot. But I think it's hearing the stories of like how it's changed people's lives. Yeah. And I'm going to use one of our friends. She got a dog and started walking it around the neighborhood, and we'd never known her before that time. And so one time we were out and working in our garden, and it was the week before our first coffee pop-up, and she was just like, "Oh, tomatoes?" And we're like, "Yeah, actually, you want some?" Got talking to her and just started a conversation. And then we're like, "Oh, hey, we have a coffee pop-up this weekend. Do you want to come?" She's like, "Okay, sure." She ended up coming and meeting 12 other women. And she's like, "Wait, do you guys all go to church?" And we're like, "Yeah, we do." And so we invited her to church the next weekend, or that next day, the Sunday. And when she walked into church, she knew there was 3 people instantly that she'd met at the coffee pop-up. And she's like, "I have felt like I've been looking for community." And she had said that she had been going to a few different churches and just was never meeting people, and it made it hard to want to go back. And so now that she was like, I have people that I can like, oh, I know them, and be able to talk with them, and felt like she was seen and known. Fast forward almost 2 years, and she's like plugged into Community, like a co-group, and almost leading it now. And she's like, I've really found my faith more, and like, just, it's so cool to see how not only has her faith changed, but like the community of friends that she's built. And it all started from a simple conversation and inviting her into the space that we've created. Cool. And like, I don't want to say it's completely changed her life. She'd have to say that for herself, but just being able to create a space, it can change people's lives in a way that you never even know or can comprehend. And so just hearing the stories for me is something that is very rewarding, and like keeps me motivated to continue building and growing community.
Love that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of similar to her. There was a girl I talked to, I think it was last month, when we had our coffee pop up, and I was able to get out from behind the counter and talk with her. And she had told me that when she first came like a handful of months ago, she hadn't known anyone. And I think she was newer to Nashville as well. And so had found like comfort in the space that we provided. And she had met so many people, and it was really cool because when she walked out later that evening, I think like 10 people were like, bye, see you next time. And so just like hearing the story of that, she didn't like know that many people, and then to see how many people were saying bye, see you later. You know, just like, I guess the growth and change that like a space that we just provide the space, you know, can change someone's kind of world, you know, who they interact with. Yeah,
it's really good. I've definitely found a lot of fulfillment in it. The same things, and kind of in addition or on top of that, for me personally, how I've grown, I think, as a leader. Like I don't know, growing up, maybe had like, I've always had thoughts of grandeur and like doing big kind of entrepreneurial things, or just like really like ambition level 11 out of 10, just like a lot of big ideas, but wasn't really doing them, or was kind of like shy and scared to do them, nervous. And in doing this and then being faithful with it, just kind of watching how God has equipped and grown me to be more comfortable in effectively making plans and posting them out for people to see. And you don't know if 0 people are going to show up or if 160 people show up. But doing that, getting more confident in that, and really, especially like being in front of people. Again, never on earth would I have thought that I'd stand on any kind of stage or literally in the middle of 20, 30, 50, 100, 160, I'm sure we'll do even more, you know, this year, of our peers, and talk on anything, much less like discussions about, you know, the importance of community or, you know, inviting people to church, you know, kind of on a large scale, or any like theological discussions. Never would have imagined any of that, or like building and scaling into a community this size. So that's really been big for me. And kind of as that's going, it's something I've been like, I guess, getting closer and closer to, and actually leading up to this, and kind of Brian and I talking about this a week or so ago, prepping for this, kind of wanted to actually kind of announce or kind of debut here. I believe I'm actually transitioning full time into Nashville Connect.
Let's
and really
go.
leaning in,
That's great.
you know,
That's awesome.
having majored in entrepreneurship in school, and just this really taking up a lot of my time and energy and passion, and just seeing how many like giftings and little things throughout life are really like culminating and coming into this, while I'll still, you know, I'm in the Air National Guard here in Nashville, and I'm a realtor, so I'll still be doing that part-time, but really wanting to just kind of go head over heels and just really lean into all this that we're doing with, you know, the NC singles, Christian singles, you know, dating events, NC sports, NC socials is not something I've like publicly announced yet, but Caleb and I have talked a good bit about that, and kind of mirroring a lot of what he does and doing kind of.
You just announced it publicly now.
Yeah, now I have. So here we go. Those things, and you know, even his dinner party model has given me some really cool ideas, and just thinking about kind of the big funnel of, okay, you can show up to a Friday night and there are 100, 150 people. You can start to meet people and get plugged in, and then work it down. And then cool, you get to meet, the Cannon sisters and hear about their coffee pop up and show up there. And it's literally in their house. You're enjoying coffee. It's much more, intimate vibes. Or, Caleb's community socials being kind of a good medium of, hey, it's still kind of big scale. You get to meet a lot of people, but then it becomes whittled down and you're meeting good quality people and you're getting invited maybe to smaller things that Caleb is hosting or that I'm hosting or that Brian has invited and hosted me, several times for smaller game nights or movie nights, things like that. I've been the beneficiary of that. I met one of my best friends and I sold him his house, a few years ago because I got invited to a movie night that he was hosting at the house he was, renting in at the time. I showed up with my Nintendo Switch in my backpack like a nerd, just, in case it got to, get played. I found that he had a Nintendo Switch and his name is also Ben, and we both play, Smash Bros, pretty avidly, and immediately like some best of friends.
So cool.
Because of that right there, because I was the beneficiary of someone extending an invite to me to a small 10, 20 person gathering for, a movie night.
So cool.
So I really have that vision of creating that. So it was kind of interesting, Caleb, to hear you say like, you really don't want a part in being kind of like the central hub of, and kind of community, but instead being more focused on curating the, hey, here, yeah, you can meet each other, but like now you do your thing. I'm going to empower you, encourage you. And, I like that and do the same, but I've actually been thinking about or leaning more into being kind of the central hub.
Yeah.
Something I think one of y'all had mentioned early on in this podcast was the overwhelming amount of possibilities, especially here in Nashville, where like there are, I don't know, like movie nights and game nights and things like kind of pocketed all around town, or you can show up and play sports in the park, or different churches to test out, all sorts of things. There's no good central repository to where you can just click either on an app or on a website or a social media or a group me where you could just click and see all of that easily available. It's something I've desired of like, I want to see all the opportunities where I can immediately show up and just start to get plugged in. So that's kind of been my thought. And as I'm building and scaling this, I do want to be that kind of central repository where there's a Wednesday night group that plays volleyball, every night during kind of nice weather season. You don't know about it unless you know someone who's in it and like gets invited. I didn't learn about it for some time and I felt miffed when I finally learned about it. I'm like, why has this been gatekept from me? Or like Friday nights. Not everyone in Nashville knows about it yet, and I want to change that.
There you go.
Or the pop-ups. Like obviously, you guys don't want 10,000 people beating down your door, so like
that would be difficult.
we'll be mindful of that. But I'm like,
a lot of scones.
as it
Which we don't mind making. We
as it
love
can go and grow, it's like maybe it becomes more than just a pop-up, and you guys can expand into bigger venues where you can really pack them out and still have that kind of small, intimate vibe, just in bigger scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love the idea of a one-stop shop, simple, hey, I'm new to Nashville. How can I get plugged into community and different businesses and different things? Oh, boop, I can just go here, Nashville Connect.
Brian, what about you? You do a lot of community building as well. What's something that you find rewarding?
Yeah. Well, I'm the small dog. You guys are the big dogs. But I love doing it. I've seen some people become best friends because of it. Yeah. Big. I know one individual, she was just, not in the best place. I'll just leave it at that. And became best friends with one of the other girls in the group and got plugged in and found really great community and just has a sense of like belonging. And so things like that, and then hearing their story and that particular individual, the Holy Spirit would not get this individual out of my mind. I have to invite them. I literally, like, you ever have that where someone's on your mind? I'm like, I can't get them out of there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to invite them to this movie night I was putting on. And then from there, we have like this pickleball group and whatnot. So just seeing people getting plugged in and like building those friendships. And now they're like, really tight and can have that community has been really rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Caleb, what about you?
It kind of echoes a lot of what y'all are saying. It's the connections that you see people make and the fruit of that, of I'll give 2 or 3 examples that come to mind. Like I had a friend once that came to an event that I hosted that literally didn't know anybody at the event besides me. And then like maybe a week or so later, I ran into her and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I wanted to say thanks for inviting me to that." She's an entrepreneur, has a small business. And she was like, "I literally just got the best client that I ever had at your last event."
Wow.
So it's like something like that. Or I've had a number of people who have, made a romantic connection and got married, met their spouse at an event that I had, or the married couple that it's like they had a baby 3 months ago and it's their first time getting out of the house without the kid. And it's like, oh, we just needed the social interaction and to have adult conversation again.
Yeah.
And, watching them be able to get out and cut loose and, have a little bit of fun.
That's cool.
Or one of the coolest stories that I've seen was a friend of mine who she had for a number of years, I don't know how many years, but for a number of years had this longing in her heart to receive a spiritual gifting. And at one of my events, it was actually a L&L market in Nashville, and she said she showed up to this event, saw someone and was like, "Hey, you look familiar." And they started talking. Turns out they had gone to some like church conference or something and met there. And then they got on this conversation about the Lord. And then they got on this like topic of, I've been praying for years for this spiritual gift. And then the 2 girls that she met were like, well, let's step off to the side and pray. And the Lord answered the prayer in that moment at that event.
Wow.
And it's like, you don't go to a social event and think, oh, I'm going to receive a spiritual gift at this.
Right.
But that's kind of like the heart behind it is like not having a specific agenda. It's like, no, show up and get what you need here, because what you need is going to be found in people.
Yeah. You never know what divine connection is coming up tomorrow.
That's
Yes.
right.
That's good.
So good. Well, I know we got to land the plane here. Why don't you guys just share a little bit, again, remind people what events you put on and how they can get involved so we can get the word out.
Sure, I'll start off. Again, I lead the Nashville Connect community, primarily 20s and 30s right now, but slowly, looking at expanding kind of to additional age ranges. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We're on meetup.com. Our group me is, ever growing, and that's kind of the best way to kind of stay in touch, see what's kind of going on throughout the week. You can find links to that kind of in all the other places through our socials. I run everything right now, so people can always message me, and I'm pretty prompt with communication. Friday nights are big, kind of consistent. I call them, Friday night hangs. And as the weather gets better, we'll be out at Centennial Park. We're the really big group out there with a bunch of volleyball nets and soccer and snacks and such. So keeping an eye on kind of all of our socials and such is best way to kind of start to get mixed in.
Let's go. Awesome.
And we do a coffee pop-up in our home, and it can't get very big.
Okay.
We do want people to come that desire community, and so it's more word of mouth. And if you have a text or number, like a friend will text you a link or anything like that. So we're not on Instagram or anything like that. But I mean, we have a desire to have people come. So if you have our number, or if you know somebody who comes, then ask them for a link.
Cool.
Wow. I think she hit the nail on the head right there.
Cool.
Yeah. And I host Community Social, and I also have not, kind of by design, I've not created like a centralized place for that. But I guess if you could kind of reach out through the podcast or something, I'm sure Brian can connect with you. And if you want to message me, I can give you their address for the coffee pop-up.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Right. And well, any parting words before we call it a night or day?
I would say be willing to be, like, you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's good.
And just throw the pride aside.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable and be willing just to say yes and enter into those spaces, because it could change your life, and you could, a year down the road, you might not even recognize who you've become because you
really
said
good.
yes
So
to
good.
one thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'd say, like, don't let fear rule your life. I know, like, I let it for a little bit, and it just stepping out in faith and like finding the community, you know, through church in small ways.
Mhm.
And then now in big ways has been so amazing just to see kind of what God has done in my life through the community that I've built and like the healing and everything. So it's like, don't let fear rule your life, because it can isolate you. And just knowing what God has done and the importance of community, like it's so amazing on the other side.
Awesome.
It's really good. I'd say, you know, what I said earlier is really just showing up. Also, I've told some people at certain events, take a moment, reflect on any like nervousness or insecurity you feel, and realize that basically everyone else there or who's going to be showing up either currently feels it or has felt it and has grown from it. Take a second to laugh at yourself and just kind of how like nervous and jittery you feel. I still feel it at times. And laugh at the fact that, you know, other people can, you know, kind of be feeling it and feel nervous. Relax and then just show up. And I do everything that I can to cultivate, and I know that you all do as well, that if you just physically get yourself in the environment, don't overthink what you're going to wear, what you're going to say, what you're going to do. Literally just showing up hungry to meet people and develop good community, that will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think that my encouragement would be reject consumerism and embrace learning how to contribute to the people around you. And if you focus on contributing to the people around you, that'll take care of about 90% of the problems that you're experiencing in building community.
It's good.
Some wise words.
Yeah, I think just one more thing. I think
Yeah.
one thing that my sister kind of has said to me, and that's kind of been an encouragement to me with community, is like, if it's something that you want, then it's bound to be something that someone else wants.
That's
Yes.
really good.
Don't,
It's quite good.
go out and do it, because you're not the only one who has the desire for community. Like, be then that bridge for other people.
So good. Those great words, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining the Created to Win podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This was
Yes,
great, man.
much
It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, let's go. Let's have a good one.